Welcome everybody to the District House. I'm Hannah Jo. I'm the current guest interviewer here at District. If you are unfamiliar, we're a psychedelic social club here at Loto Studios, and we aim to represent this very special crossroads of education and entertainment in the beautiful favorite realms of art, music, psychedelics, and cannabis. And this evening, we have a gorgeous guest who is going to be speaking to the non-ordinary states of consciousness that we access through breathwork as a healing modality and practice, both for preparation, integration of psychedelic experiences. So offer a warm welcome to Kali May of Ritual Breathwork.
Hello, hello. Thank you. Thanks for having us. I'm honored to be here. Speaking about some of my favorite topics, psychedelics, non-ordinary states of consciousness, breath work, the overlap of all of these, the intersection.
Yeah.
What would you like to talk about tonight?
So before we get into our soon to be really awesome conversation, I would love for you to lead us in a little grounding practice just to center in. If
I would
people
love
are open to that. Yes, please.
All right. So, first of all, show of hands, who in this room has experienced breath work? Okay. All but two. Great. Well, the good news is you've experienced breath work because you're breathing. You're alive. You're here. Your life has been marked by every breath you've taken since the moment you were born. And tonight we're going to experience the world of conscious breath. And so breath work, I don't love that the word work is attached to it, although it is a bit of work. Tonight we're going to go through a couple of different breath exercises where we're just going to kind of tap into our somatic awareness. We're going to tap into our bodies. We live in a culture where we kind of operate from the neck up. We kind of, like, even when we're doing like personal development work, a lot of it is around mindset. It's around changing your mind to change your life. Like, all you need to do is change your perspective and your world will shift. Well, I'm here to say that's not always true. And when we don't include the body and the language of the body, we're really missing some key components to opening ourselves up for real change, real transformation, and healing. So tonight we're going to open with just a very brief little grounding meditation into some somatic awareness. I am going to cue the tunes, and I invite you all to take a moment and close your eyes. And just notice your natural breath. Maybe ask yourself, when was the last time I even paid attention to my breath? Notice its natural rhythm as you pull it into the belly and release. And as you breathe, maybe notice where in your body you might be holding any tension. Notice areas of your body where your breath might be stuck. And with each inhale, I invite you to pull the breath a little deeper, filling the belly with big, deep inhales and nice, long, extended exhales. And on your next breath, I invite you to pull that energy, that breath deep into your belly and even further down into your root. And from there, we're going to imagine this breath as energy flowing down our legs, down into our feet, and plugging into the earth. And as you plug into the earth, we're going to connect into the root systems. We're going to connect into the dirt and the mud and the stone. Keep breathing. Breathing that life force energy down into the earth. Remembering that we are of this earth and we need this earth, and the earth is always here to hold us. Notice if there's any messages here for you in this moment. And on your next inhale, we're going to pull that energy back up into our bodies, pulling it up our legs, back up into the root. And from here, I want you to imagine an opening. On your next inhale, we're going to pull that breath and that ball of energy up into your belly, continuing imagining just opening in all directions. And then on your next inhale, we'll pull all of that breath and that energy into our heart space. I invite you to lay down all of your armor, opening all the doors, letting the light in, and also letting the light out. And we're going to keep breathing. We're going to pull that energy up into our throat. We're going to pull that energy up into our third eye. And on your next breath, let's pull all of that energy up into our crown, imagining a funnel opening at the top of your head. And I invite you to connect with something greater than yourself. Whether that's the universe, God, source, or just energy. And from here, I want you to call forth an intention, something you'd like to receive through tonight's breathwork practice. And on your next breath, we are going to pull all of that light and energy with gratitude back into our heart space, where we're going to hold this intention while we dive into this conversation about healing through non-ordinary states of consciousness and breath work and the power of connecting mind, body, and spirit. And I invite you to keep breathing throughout the night. Notice if there's any messages for you right now here in this space. Notice if there's anything present or alive that wasn't there when we first started. What message does your body have for you in this moment? And when you're ready, you can return your presence to this room. I invite you to bring your hearts. I invite you to bring your curiosity into this conversation and into this experience. And I invite you to open your minds.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. I appreciate opening space in this way and using the breath to sort of emphasize this transition from perhaps whatever has been before this now moment to fully arrive and land here now. And I know there's many powerful benefits and intentions of breath work. So I'd love for you to lead in what perhaps your intention behind ritual breathwork is? Because I feel many people in this community are familiar with words like ritual or ceremony in reference to the plant medicine or psychedelic space. So what's ritual breathwork all about?
I love this. Okay, so speaking of plant medicine and psychedelic spaces, it is that work that has brought me to breathwork. So just a little bit about me and my background. I have a background working in mental health. I was training as a clinical psychologist many moons ago and decided to leave that industry because I didn't really identify with our like Western medical diagnostic model of first diagnosing and labeling and then treating. And so I left that world. Years later, I returned into the wellness space training as a mindset coach. So I learned how to help people shift their mindset, change their mind. You change your mind, you change your life. And it was really very much about, from the neck up. That was the work that I was doing. But I was finding that in those spaces, I myself, in my own healing journey, would find myself just looping back. It's like I would do all of the work. I was doing, I would go to therapy. I would do the mindset work. I was trained in hypnosis. I was trained in neuro-linguistic programming, all of these things that are very mindset based. But I still, in my patterns, I kept looping back into these old patterns of thought, old feelings of not being enough, feelings of unworthiness that were rooted in, growing up in a household with an alcoholic father and who is bipolar. This is my own history and my story and my healing journey. And then I discovered plant medicine and started working in plant medicine spaces. And similar to the mindset work before, plant medicine has this really, really beautiful way of showing you new perspectives and new awarenesses and taking you to the root of what's actually going on for you. But it's like you get a beautiful ride on a helicopter up to the summit and you get to see what is possible. But at the end of your journey, you're still dropped right back off at base camp. And then you have to, foot by foot, step by step, climb your way back up to the summit. But how do we do that? And so it was through working in medicine spaces that I discovered breathwork as a tool, not only to help prepare for a journey, but I actually found it to be a really powerful tool in integrating what arrives through these journeys. And so breathwork has this ability to take you back into a psychedelic experience, but also it's one of the most powerful modalities that I know that helps you really open up that doorway between your conscious mind and what lives below the surface, your unconscious mind. And so it was in the work that I was doing in medicine spaces, I would bring in these breathwork facilitators and practitioners. And my full disclosure, I was always very resistant to this work. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to sit and breathe. And so I would, play along. I would do the thing. And it actually wasn't until I went to a in-person live event. I was in Sedona. It was an Aubrey Marcus Fit for Service Summit. That's where I say I really discovered breathwork for the first time. I had the most life-changing, powerful breathwork journey where I, fully sober, no substances involved, was able to access parts of myself, memories stored in my somatic body that I was able to really release and process and move through in a very powerful way, like a sacred purge. And it was from that moment forward that I thought, okay, if I can access this and do this deep level of work just with my breath, why do more people not know about this? And so that was when I decided I needed to get training. It was actually one of the facilitators that was there. I entered into his training program. And that's kind of what brings me here today. But sorry, Ritual. You asked about Ritual. Got to keep me on track here. So Ritual, for me, is we live in this culture where we we're really, we're proud of our routines, like my morning routine. What's your morning routine? Oh, I get up, I sip my coffee, whatever. We go through these routines, again, sort of like from the neck up. We're not really giving it much intention. We're not really giving it much conscious thought. And so the idea about ritual is really about bringing conscious intention to the mundane moments that make up our life. So maybe it's that first sip of coffee, but it's that first sip of coffee where you're realizing, okay, I'm grateful for the first sip of coffee. I'm going to set my intention for my day. We bring ritual into all areas of our life inside Ritual Studio, but breathwork is one of those places where it's really just conscious, intentional breathing. And yeah, that's kind of what we're all about.
I love it. Thank you for painting that picture for us. And I realize that this may not be a universal gesture, but this means I resonate. And I've been saying every interview is bringing me closer to Aubrey Marcus. And I didn't know that piece about you. So thank you for sharing. I feel a lot of warmth in my body hearing that from you. And I know that Aubrey says he doesn't push or recommend the psychedelic pathway for everyone. He doesn't say that all people should do psychedelics. But what he does say is that all people should do breath work.
Absolutely.
And you have that same suggestion. I heard you say something similar.
Yeah.
And so I love that you had that breakthrough experience, and I can relate. I've personally had breathwork experiences that I can compare to blasting off on DMT, which is an incredible, indescribable experience that really makes me appreciate the sensory experience in the human body.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the overlap. A lot of people will classify breathwork in the same category as psychedelics. And there are those who are like, I don't really understand why. And it really is that DMT-like state that you're able to access through breath that is the true crossover. The difference, and the reason I say everyone who doesn't have like a pre-existing medical condition that would prevent them from doing breathwork should do breathwork, because you get to be in the driver's seat. You get to maintain agency over your experience. You don't have to surrender into an experience where you're dealing with the consciousness of a plant or the consciousness of facilitators. You get to maintain agency over your experience. You're in the driver's seat. If things get a little too bumpy or a little too rough in your journey, you get to take your foot off the gas pedal and just return to your normal breathing. And if you want to go deeper, there are ways to go deeper. So that's one of the things that I love about it. It's a really easy entry point for someone who maybe hasn't experienced psychedelics and they're curious about it. It's a good place to start from. And there are a lot of people who could really benefit from psychedelics and plant medicine, but who can't because of medication or something. So again, breath work is a really nice segue, or at least, it's a way to get a really powerful healing experience. But again, you're in control. You get to maintain agency.
Yeah, I love that piece about it too. And I think the psychedelic state and breath work teaches us a mastery and an ownership of our system. And we've mentioned DMT now, and so I'd love for you to describe a little bit more of the physiological or biochemical component of the breathwork practice, just to whatever degree you want to go into that. And
Sure. Well, so there's many, many, many different types of breathwork. There's Wim Hof, for example. There's pranayama. I could list countless breathwork practices, and they're all wonderful, but for very different intentions. And so some breathwork practices will take you deep into a journey where you might experience a DMT-like state, and others won't. It really just depends on what your intention is with the work that you're doing with your breath. The thing about like the science behind like DMT and breathwork, there's actually not a lot of research out there that supports that breathwork activates DMT. However, there are theories out there that it does. We don't really know why DMT exists in our lungs. We don't really know why by using certain types of breath technique and pulling our energy up into our headspace, that we are, having these psychedelic experiences. The theory is that we are releasing DMT and having, DMT, our natural occurring DMT in our body. We're experiencing that. And I mean, we can talk about, the physiology of breath work. We can talk about, the energy. We can talk about life force energy. We could talk about chi and prana and all of that that's activated as we are intentionally breathing through activation breath. All of these things are really powerful and wonderful. But at the base of all of this, like the reason that I do breath work, the reason I opened a breathwork studio, the reason I teach breath work really comes down to nervous system regulation. I don't necessarily do breathwork to have these out of body mystical experiences. Those are, it's beautiful and wonderful that happens. But my passion for breathwork really is rooted in the fact that you can, with conscious breath, reset your nervous system in a way where you're no longer having to live in reaction to life. Like, we live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with stress. Our bodies know how to complete stress cycles, but we don't give ourselves the opportunity to do so. We are constantly on our screens. We're constantly distracted. And so what happens when we go into like a fight, flight, freeze state and we don't complete the stress cycle, that energy gets stuck in our bodies. And we also live in a culture where we don't celebrate expression. So the expression of anger, the expression of emotion, the expression of sadness, the expression of grief, these are all expressions that are kind of, we're not really, they're not embraced. They're not embraced publicly. So these are a lot of things that we do behind closed doors, privately. But when we aren't free to express ourselves in the ways that our bodies needs to naturally express itself, we end up actually suppressing these energies and emotions. We suppress them, we repress them, and all of that leads to symptoms of depression. And so in this culture, we have a lot of people who are medicated. 25% of our population is medicated for depression or anxiety. And that's the go-to, like when you go into the Western medical model and you're experiencing depression, no one's telling you to connect with your body and to connect with your breath and to let your body work through these stress cycles. They're saying, go over here, take this medication. And all we're doing is bypassing the problem. We're just, putting a Band-Aid on it. And again, it's a mindset thing. We're living from the neck up. We're not connected to our truth and to, our own ability to heal our bodies just through breath. I'm wandering again.
I'm with you. I inquired on the physiological benefit of breath work, and you led us to your main focus, which is strengthening and toning the nervous system. Not necessarily, your interest isn't necessarily blasting off and having these hard to describe spiritual experiences, which you value in a time and place, but that's not the reality of most moments of your lived experience. And so you want to cultivate skill set in your mind and body connection to live a more balanced, attuned, and responsive life.
Absolutely. I would love more people in the world to learn how to connect with their body, connect with their breath, and walk through life in a more regulated state. And so, that's one of the powerful benefits of breath work. And again, yes, the blast off journeys, that happens. It's really powerful. It's very common for people in my studio to be brought back to moments in their past where they've experienced trauma. I've had a couple different women now be brought back to a birthing experience where one who was told she was going to have an emergency C-section. It wasn't part of her birth plan. And she never really let herself process the grief of that and just the trauma of that experience. And so in my studio, she went into, a whole release of that. And afterwards felt lighter, felt like she was able to move through it. And she didn't even know she was carrying that. And how much do we all carry in our day-to-day lives that we just aren't even aware of that we're carrying? What, just even the daily stressors and pressures of everyday living, when we don't offload that and release that, we carry it around in our energetic body. It weighs us down. It blocks us from being in flow and being able to connect with our highest potential and who it is that we want to be as we walk through this life.
Yeah, that sounds super powerful. And I'm so grateful that you're curating and holding community where people can have those really profound experiences that are transformative. And I'm curious, like, if I can invite the audience, like, just by a show of hands, if you can remember a time you felt shaky or nervous or like your heart was racing in a way that was uncomfortable. Like, can you remember a time you felt that way? So this is what we would call like a dysregulated state in the nervous system, which is super common, and most people attach that experience to anxiety or the feelings of stress or nervousness. And then can you recall a moment you felt relaxed and soft in your body and almost in pleasure in just how you were feeling in your beingness? Is that a familiar experience? Yeah, that's a regulated state. And so what you're suggesting is that we can actually learn our nervous systems. So when we feel that shaky, jittery tension, we go, oh, I'm dysregulated. But I know how to regulate, and it doesn't require anything outside of myself, but just a pause and a breath.
Absolutely. And I want to add that dysregulation can look different ways. It can look like that, oh my gosh, I don't know how to control my reaction to what's happening. I'm angry. I'm going to, have an explosive reaction, or I'm stressed, and where you feel like you're just on the edge of losing it. But dysregulation can also look like the other end of the spectrum, where you've been pushing yourself and you're overwhelmed and you're in burnout to the point of where suddenly you don't feel like you can get out of bed in the morning. You don't feel like you can connect with your energy. You don't have the motivation to do the things that you once loved to do. This is also a dysregulated nervous system. It's just on the other end of the spectrum. So in our culture, we kind of swing back and forth between these extremes. We live in a place where our value is often associated with our ability to perform and to produce. And so we push ourselves and we push ourselves and we push ourselves. And sometimes when we're in that state, it's actually kind of hard to back off. We might find ourselves not knowing how to turn that off. And so we get to a point where sometimes our bodies turn it off for us. So that might look like getting sick. That might look like just shutting down. It might look like symptoms of depression. And so when we experience that, we retract and we, pull back, and then we have all of the shame and the guilt of, I should be doing more. I should, what's wrong with me? I don't know my purpose. I don't know what I'm here on this planet to do. And then the moment we have any amount of energy again, we're back at it. And we're overproducing and, trying to prove our worth and trying to build something grand for the world to see. And then we just find ourselves back in that same place. So we go on this pendulum swing back and forth. But breathwork is a powerful tool that you can use where you can learn. It's superpower. You can learn how to turn that energy on when you need it, and you can learn how to turn it off when it's time to rest and let ourselves rest and digest and go into, the cycles that we're actually supposed to all have access to. We're not supposed to live in full bloom all the time. We're not supposed to be in spring all the time. And so knowing how to shut it off when we live in a world full of stimulants that keep us producing and keep us, in those energetic states of wanting to keep going, keep producing until our bodies are like, wait, no, actually, this is adrenal fatigue, and you're not going to be able to go do that anymore. So it's taking control of your life and taking control of your health. That's a big part of why I do breath work, why I teach breath work, why I have a deep reverence for this practice. And it is a practice. It's something like, it's not like you go in and do a journey and it's done. It's something that you can revisit regularly. And the more you revisit it, just like any muscle, you're going to strengthen. You're going to strengthen yourself. You'll strengthen your ability to control your nervous system reactions. You're going to strengthen your ability to go deeper into a journey or into an experience. And so, yeah, I invite you to develop a breathwork practice if it feels aligned for you. And the more you do it, the deeper you're going to go.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate that clarification that it can go different ways. And I know in the earlier part of my journey, I experienced a lot of dissociation and feelings of numbness and apathy, which I think is my own unique expression of what you were just describing, a different flavor of dysregulation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think we both represent, people who are thriving and connected to their aliveness because we've reclaimed relationship to the breath. So I just affirm that it's available for everyone and can lead to amazing transformation. And I would love for you to share the current structure of Ritual Breathwork and how people connect to you in the studio, and also give a glimpse of what's coming and the growth that you have sight of.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ritual Breathwork, my practice is founded on my training in Somatic Breathwork. And so I keep bringing us back to the body because the body really is, it's the key. It's the key. When we're not connected to our bodies, we're not connected to ourselves. We're not able to make clear decisions. We're not able to really show up in the world in the way that we're meant to. But Ritual Breathwork, part of why it's called Ritual is I do bring in elements from my work in medicine spaces. So it's one way that I set myself apart from the training that I've gone through, is that I do bring in that element, that extra element of spirit. It's really easy to talk about breathwork from, a biological, physiological, physical practice. It's another thing to talk about it when we're talking about that which we cannot measure. I like to say breathwork is a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual practice. And it's really one of the only modalities I know without taking substances that really works through all of these different parts of your being, all of these parts of your different energies, and integrates them together. So right now at Ritual Breathwork Studio, I do private one-to-one sessions. These are part coaching backed up by breathwork. And then I also do groups. I do groups of up to 12 people. And these are more journeys. All of my groups are set in a ceremonial way. So we always, there's lots of intention and ritual around it. We open with ceremonial cacao, and using that cacao as a heart opener, a gateway to really connect into our intentions. And then we go into our journey. We go into our practice. Beyond my services that I offer, we're actually also, as a studio, we're launching practitioner training that's coming up in January. This is for people that are already working in some capacity as either a coach, a healer, some type of facilitator, someone who already has experience holding space. But this training is really to help you learn how to integrate this body-based technique into your existing practice. So that is something that's on the horizon. And then also within Ritual Breathwork Studio, we're growing. We've only actually been open for about 6 months as a breathwork studio. And so things that are coming in 2024 include there's going to be a cannabis clinic that's going to be operating part-time out of our space for people who are, maybe curious about working with ketamine. It's also, we like to think of it as a safe space where people can learn not only about breathwork, but, learn about safety and access to psychedelics and plant medicine. I like to say that we are a modern day healing modality that's rooted in sacred ancient traditions. And so we have a lot of deep honor, reverence, respect for those traditions. And yeah, we're trying to do everything in a very safe and respectful manner.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for you, and I know there's already been so much shift in the past 6 months since opening, so I imagine there's much expanse on the horizon for you in Ritual Breathwork.
Thank you. Yeah. There's been a strange, a surprising amount of momentum around breathwork, which is, it delights me. But yeah, so here we are today talking about breathwork at a psychedelic social club in Santa Barbara. Who knew?
Totally. I know it. I would love to give space for us to open and do a little bit of engagement and then transition into the longer breathwork segment. But is there anything else that you would like to voice before we do so?
No, I think we covered it. Yeah. I think we're good.
So
thank you.
Something that really stood out to me when we initially met about tonight was you value the opportunity to give people the opportunity to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful healing practice in itself. Mm-hmm. So do you want to share any more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our wounding happens in community, and therefore I believe that our healing also happens in community. And so anyone who comes into my space, I like to say, there are certain practices you'll go into, certain studios where people will say, okay, whatever you're carrying with you, leave it at the door and just be present. Leave whatever you're carrying outside and be present in this moment. And I like to turn that around and say, you know what? No, whatever you're carrying, bring it in here. This is a safe space for it. And I want you to bring it in here. I want you to share it with us so that we can all hold it and that we can all process it, that we could all allow ourselves to be seen and allow ourselves to show up as sacred witnesses. I mean, this is what community is. And so for those who maybe feel open to leaning into this practice of allowing yourselves to be seen, I would like to invite us to go around the room and share maybe what we're carrying into the space today. It doesn't have to be anything too profound. It could be anything at all. But if there's anything that you're carrying, this is an invitation to let yourself be seen. And before we go into our practice, I will be taking you through a very light, short breathwork practice. But before we go into the practice, it's nice to kind of have awareness of what it is that we're carrying and what it is that we'd like to work through and potentially release through the practice that we're going to engage in tonight.
I'm happy to lead and then pass the mic to anyone else who wants to share their voice. Something that I want to add is like when we have the opportunity to be seen in what we're carrying, I just want to emphasize that doesn't need to be a negative thing or something that you're wanting to be different. It totally can be, but maybe there's a celebration that wants to be spoken and seen by this community. So I'm just going to tune into myself and see what that is for me. You can join me if you would like to. This is funny. So I am celebrating that I purchased a car a year ago. And I still feel like I'm getting in my new car. Every time I get in my car, it's still my new car to me. And I recently saw the dollar number of payments that I've made on it over the year. And to see that much money through 12 months has been put into this purchase, I felt so abundant and resourced because I haven't really seen that money. It's just been an automated payment, but I very much see the value and my own adulthood that I've stepped into with this purchase. So in a way, I am just celebrating myself in my car that I'm calling my new car. And so thank you for seeing me in that. And
thank you for sharing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you brought forward, that sometimes what we're carrying is something that is a celebration. We live, again, I keep saying we live in a culture. We live in a culture. We do live in a culture where things that we share are often the celebrations. And so that's beautiful and wonderful. And I love that we get to do that. And something that was so beautiful and pure about your share is that it showed this beautiful aspect of your humanity, of like kind of the journey of what that was like to get that car and what that actually really means to you. It's very individual. It's going to mean something completely different. That experience will be completely different for someone else. But there's a vulnerability in saying, you know what? This is a big deal to me. Like, and that's great. And I honor that. So thank you so much. Something we didn't talk about in our talk was just sort of what comes up in breathwork. Breathwork will bring out expressions when we're in our journeys. And these expressions might look like anything from emotional expressions. It might be crying. It might be moaning. You might experience anger. You might want to, you might feel called to yell or, hit your fists on the floor. All of this is totally normal, but sometimes what these expressions look like are laughter. Sometimes it looks like tapping into your, divine sexual energy, and you might be, writhing in ecstasy while you're breathing. All of these things, all of these expressions are exactly what your body is ready to move through. And so all of it is celebrated. All of it is completely normal, completely natural. And so, you talking about the celebration reminded me to say, like, breathwork isn't just about clearing all the gunk. That's a huge part of it, but it's also about, oh man, when was the last time I allowed myself to laugh from my belly? Like, when was the last time I experienced that feeling of ecstatic joy flowing through my body? Like, that is what it means to be human, being able to connect to all of it and play all the keys on the keyboard. So I do want to be clear that breathwork, while it is a healing modality, while it is this practice to help you regulate your nervous system, it's also a really powerful tool to just help you remember the beauty of who you are as a human. And one last thing on this is, like, in the world of mindset coaching, which again, I mentioned is my background, there's always this message around, like, who are you going to become? What do you need to do to become the person that you want to be? And it's all of this forward thinking, and you're reaching for this next version of yourself. One of the things that I love about this practice is it is an invitation to get to know the self that you are right now in this moment, and learn to honor and love whatever version of yourself is here and present, and to, breathe into all parts of that and know that there's nowhere you need to be. There's no other version you need to be. There's nothing you need to do. All we have is this moment. And so when you combine conscious breath and intention with this practice, it really is a practice of finding your way back home within yourself and allowing yourself to release the need to feel like you have to be anywhere or be any other shinier, more perfect version of yourself. Just loving yourself wherever you are in your journey. That's what it's all about.
For sure. Just embracing and receiving yourself where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I just want to give another moment, and if there is anyone who wants to share their voice, there's space for that. It's okay if not, but thank you guys for your sweet listening, and I'm going to be asking a few rapid fire questions, and then we'll flow into our longer form breath work. So I just have a handful of questions for you, and you're allowed to respond in a creative pathway. There's no rigidity or wrongdoing here. It's just your own meditation on embracing yourself.
Thank you. I get so serious sometimes. All right, here we go. Rapid fire. I feel like there should be like game show music.
Yeah. So I do like to lead with this question. Who is your greatest influence and why?
Bluey. Just kidding. I'm sorry. No. I'm a mother. I have 2 small kids. Bluey is definitely a great, powerful influence in my life right now. But no, there's so many influences in my life. But one of my greatest teachers is Richard Alpert, or some know him as Ram Dass. I am, a student of his work. And so he is one of my greatest influences.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I feel connected to that too. Yeah. And will you share with us a few more details of a profound medicine journey that you can recall and would like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little fun fact, some people know about me, some don't, is that I have a party trick, a little party trick that shows up in ceremony space. So my name, Kali, is actually a medicine name that was given to me. And it is because now for couple years now. When I'm deep with the medicine, she shows up for me and I work with her energy and she sort of works through me, and it looks very crazy and it sounds very intense, but it's, she sort of takes over my body. So I would say my most profound medicine experience was the first time I experienced Kali, not having any formal or, any real relationship with her beyond, world religions class in high school. And anyway, so she showed up, and she is now definitely a part of my everyday devotional practice. I honor and work with her energy all the time. So, yeah.
And just for personal curiosity, what medicine were you working with in that ceremony?
Ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, felt that.
I've spent the last few years organizing and working in underground medicine spaces, holding space, working as a helper, a sitter, and, a retreat organizer. So
cool. Thank you. So my next two questions are a little bit more revealing of like your own spirituality and like framework of reality. Mm-hmm. The first is, do you think that we live in a simulation?
Sorry. Oh gosh, this question is funny only because I was asking earlier, I was like, what does one wear to an interview at a psychedelic social club? Also in Santa Barbara. Like, I feel like these are kind of, I don't know. Anyway, and the conversation was like, well, it's not reality anyway. What are clothes? And so, I mean, it's definitely, I like to dabble in the fantasy of, a matrix. And I also know that all I have is this moment. I know that we are all divine energy. We are all source energy. We are all droplets of the same ocean, having a human experience. And so, yeah, is this a simulation? Yes and no.
Yeah. It is the present moment of the simulation, if it is that. Yeah. Totally. So my next and my final question is, do you personally believe in an afterlife, and how would you describe that? And do you think that the psychedelic experience gives us a glimpse to what that thing is?
Ooh, I love this. I don't necessarily believe in an afterlife, as in we have this life and then we go on to this other. I believe that we live many lives, and I believe that we exist within many dimensional planes. And I believe that when our soul is ready to leave this waking life and this living body, that it does carry on, and that there is the ability to cross over and connect on multiple planes of reality. But yeah, in terms of an afterlife and the way that maybe some sort of like Christian religions might think of it, I just think it's like infinite. We have infinite, our soul is infinite. And that's my experience. Yeah.
And does the non-ordinary state of consciousness that maybe is breathwork or the psychedelic experience give us sight of that infinite soul?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is, when we're able to really open that doorway, open that portal, that I believe our body is the vessel that allows us access to these, to divine love and to all the different energies and entities that exist out there. Our bodies, they're a gift. And when we learn to use the body with intentional breath, we are able to open those doorways. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, let's open some doorways. We'll do a little journey, and then we'll open up for audience Q&A if there's any questions at the end.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
I want to just make sure everyone knows that this is completely optional, optional participation. We will be breathing for about 15 minutes. The way this is going to go down is we're going to do 2 rounds of breath. So the first round is called an activation breath. And the way that it looks is it's going to be in through the mouth and out through the mouth. And I'm going to invite you to pull your breath as deep into your body as you can. It's really more about how deep you can pull it, not so much about how fast you're breathing. So this is full body circular breathing. I want you to try as hard as you can to not have pauses on the top or the bottom of the breath. So instead of breathing in and holding and then breathing out, we're just going to do circular. And again, that's in through the mouth and out through the mouth. And try to just stay committed to the breath. In between these two rounds, I'm going to guide you into a breath hold. And the way that's going to look is I'm going to tell you to take a deep breath, let it go, take a deep breath, let it go. And on the third one, I'm going to invite you to hold it at the top. And during this breath hold, I invite you to hold your breath for as long as you can. This is your moment to really connect with your body, connect with what might be coming up, what's present now after we've activated your life force energy with this activation breath. And then I'm going to guide you into a restorative breath technique, which is where we're going to call all parts of ourselves back into our body. And this breath technique is in through the nose. And we're going to be focusing on long, extended exhales. This is, again, pulling as much breath in as we can, but really focusing on those slow, long, extended exhales. And what we're doing here with this activation and then restorative breath is we're intentionally spiking your nervous system. We're intentionally sending you into a sympathetic state so that then you can go back into a parasympathetic state. But I mean, have you ever noticed, like, if you're really stressed out and someone's like, just calm down, just take a deep breath, you're sort of like, no, I'm here. This is where I am. Sometimes when you're in that state, we need to turn it up a little bit so that we then can come down. So that's kind of what we're doing with this activation breath is we're turning things up and then we're bringing it back down. And so I'm going to be guiding you. You don't have to remember any of this about in through the mouth, nose, any of that. I'll be guiding you. We will be listening to music. This is going to be an eyes closed inward journey. It might be best for those of you who are elevated to, if you don't have experience with breathwork, to maybe sit on a chair where your feet can be on the floor. Things that are common would be slight dizziness. I'm not going to take you guys too deep, so don't worry. And you are in the driver's seat. So if you start to feel anything that you're uncomfortable with, just know that you can return to your normal breath at any given time. And you can opt out at any given time. So you might feel tingling in the hands. You might feel tingling in your face. You might even, if you're going real deep, you might feel sort of what's called tetany, which is your hands kind of might turn into like little T-Rex arms. All of it's normal. Just keep breathing through it. And you are invited, if you feel so called, you are invited to express yourself in any way that feels natural. That might just be through your breath. That might be through toning, like just sort of some light moaning or toning. That might be through shouting. Whatever is coming up for you is very much welcome in this space. No need to hold yourself back. And yeah, we're going to go into it. Are there any questions before we go into this? If anyone in this room has any heart condition or history of seizures, I would say just take it easy on the activation breath, or opt out of that altogether. At the bare minimum, if you feel like you get nothing out of this practice, you're going to get 15 minutes or so of time where you're connecting with yourself and connecting with your body. So that in and of itself is a gift. All right, I'm going to go into the music here, and I'm going to be cueing you. Oh. All right, close your eyes. Here we go. Everything's good. Everything's exactly as it's supposed to be. Here we go. All right. All right. Everyone take a deep breath in through the mouth and release. Keep breathing in through the mouth, pulling the breath as deep as you can. stay committed and find your own rhythm. Notice where in your body you might be holding tension. Breathe into that. Where is stress living in your body? Use your breath to sweep it out. With every exhale, you're releasing. And with each inhale, I invite you to breathe in that which you'd like to embody. That's it. Stay committed. Deep inhales, deep exhales. You're halfway there. Keep breathing. Where does shame live in your body? Breathe into it. If your body wants to move, let it. If your body wants to make sound, we welcome that. All right, we're coming up on a breath hold. Everyone take a deep breath in. Let it all go. Let's take another deep breath in. Let it all go. And on this next deep breath in, we're going to hold it at the top. And hold it for as long as you can. Take this moment to connect with your body. What message does your heart have for you in this moment? All right, we're going to go into our restorative breath. This is going to be in through the nose, focusing on long extended exhales, either through the nose or through the mouth, whatever you're most comfortable with. And on your first intentional inhale, I invite you to breathe in the vibration and frequency of gratitude. What are you grateful for in this moment? Breathe it in. Find your rhythm, pulling the breath deep into your body, focusing on those long extended exhales. What parts of yourself have you been holding back? What's your unique medicine you're here to share with the world? Connect with it and breathe it in. What parts of yourself have you not been showing love to recently? Let's breathe love into all those places and spaces, filling every soul with that divine, loving, self-compassionate energy. Bringing all parts of yourself back home, calling all parts of yourself in with each breath you take. There's room for all parts of yourself to show up in your wholeness and in your fullness. What does your next iteration look like? This next chapter? See it clearly and breathe it in. Releasing with every exhale and breathing in all parts of yourself with every inhale. Focusing intention on your heart space. And when you feel ready, you're invited to return to your normal pattern of breathing. Bringing awareness maybe into your fingertips and your toes. Bringing your consciousness back into your body. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. And at the end of each practice, we open up space for anyone to share anything that feels alive, anything that they maybe want to just share with the group. During our bigger journeys, we actually hold intentional integration afterwards. And so you're invited to do so now, but there's zero pressure. For anyone who would like to share, just raise your hand and I'll bring you the mic.
I'll share that I am at an aspect of myself that didn't feel fully safe to let go in the way that I typically do in a breathwork experience, which is interesting. And I feel like there was an aspect of myself that wanted to like maintain this professionalism ego, like in whatever role I'm contributing to this event this evening. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting to just be in this context, but in my own conscious breath practice. Mm-hmm. But I love the circle breath through the open mouth. It's profound every time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm grateful that I was able to participate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, what you're saying really does play into, I mean, we all know about set and setting. Typically, what you guys just experienced was just a teeny droplet of what a full breathwork journey would be. We usually would breathe for a full 8 minutes, definitely on the activation breath, and then for a full 6 minutes on the restorative breath. And so this was just to give you a little bit of a taste. But yeah, set and setting. Typically when we do these, this is a lying down on the floor, eyes closed, inward journey. It feels a little different when you're sitting in a room on chairs and with lights and cameras and all of that. So I do applaud all of you for bringing yourselves to this practice. It's beautiful to witness. So thank you. Would you like to share?
First of all, thank you so much. Feeling a lot of gratitude. Very grateful to be here. Wanted to share that I first began doing breath work during the pandemic. I was living in Amsterdam, and I connected with a community of some practitioners who were offering kind of group breathing in the park there, which was a really amazing way to connect with people, particularly at that period of time. I've continued the practice, and it's kind of taken root intermittently. Sometimes it's more present in my life than others, but I always find myself longing for that communal aspect. I think that it's hard for me to discern whether it was doing it in nature or whether it was doing it communally or whether a combination of the two. But in this instance, even though we were sitting and there's lights in the camera, I really appreciated the opportunity to breathe with other people, and breathing in community feels like it has a lot of power. So just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to be present and sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, these practices are very powerful when we do them in numbers, and we do, like, there is science that shows that we do sync up with one another, and that our heartbeats sync up. We attune to those in the space with us. So yeah, those who are here committed to this practice, thank you. It's a beautiful experience. Does anyone else in this room care to share anything about their breathing journey? No pressure. Okay. Do we have time for any Q&A? Is there anyone who has any questions about breath work or anything that they want to bring forward?
What is
DMT. Oh gosh, I never say it right. The little tryptamine. It is a naturally occurring molecule in your body and in plant matter. But it is what produces the psychedelic, psychoactive effect when we talk about having a psychedelic journey or a plant medicine journey. It's the DMT that has us access these altered states or non-ordinary states. Any other questions?
So I used to scuba dive, and to stay down longer, we would skip breathe. We'd take a deep breath and then hold it for quite a while so our bubbles don't scare the game away, and then we would hunt. And that, I got huge lung capacity from doing that. And it's still carried through now. Never smoked, didn't breathe coal dust or anything like that.
Yeah.
But just a big story about breathing.
No, it's incredible. Some people can hold their breath for, I've had people just in session hold their breath. One woman held her breath for over 7 minutes. And I asked her afterwards, I was like, are you a scuba diver? Do you have, what do you do? And she was having an out of body experience where she was connecting with her late grandmother and was still fully with us. She returned to her breath, but it was funny because my music is timed, and we went through the whole breathwork track, which was 4 minutes. And then we went into the next track, and I stopped her at one point in time because I was like, well, she's not breathing. She's still not breathing. So yeah, we do actually have the capacity to hold our breath much longer than than we want to admit to ourselves. And there are breathwork techniques such as Wim Hof. There's one very popular one that helps you learn how to control, all elements of your breathing and the way that your physiological body will react to it. So we can definitely push our limits.
If you're sitting in a chair with no activity going on, you don't need the oxygen.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can hold your breath a lot longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
You know, you talked about Wim Hof, and I know Wim Hof has explored the actual clinical, the clinical effects of breath hold on the body. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that, or talk a little bit about how the breath work affects the physical body. I know I don't even know. I know we don't have much time. That could be a whole lecture in itself, but just a brief overview.
I mean, okay. So like I said earlier, with all these different styles and modalities of breath work, they all have different intentions. And so like we're right now talking about Wim Hof, where the intention behind that breath work is really about pushing all of our limits. And so, I mean, I am not as familiar with Wim Hof per se, beyond just, what I've read here and there and picked up through documentaries. I've not studied it myself. But when we are so within my breathwork practice, we practice both the breath hold, where we're filling and flooding our bodies with oxygen. And then there's also the breath hold where we release all of the oxygen and hold it at the bottom. So both of these produce different effects. When we hold it at the bottom, we're actually activating our parasympathetic. When we hold it at the top, we're actually still activating our sympathetic. So kind of if you think about that fight, flight, freeze, when you and you hold your breath, you're holding your breath and you're activating that sympathetic nervous system. And again, when you hold it at the bottom, it's sending you into the parasympathetic. So all this to say, it really has to do with, what's happening with the oxygen and your body, brain, blood chemistry. I can't really go into more of the science behind that, but yeah, that's kind of really designed to help you take a moment to really connect. You're kind of shutting everything down. You're, not busying your mind with inhale, exhale, and just really having that moment of clarity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us at the District House.
Oh, I'm so honored to be here.
Yay.
And oh my gosh, it's what a treat to be able to speak in a space that's doing such incredible work.
Thank you again for coming out tonight.
Thank you
It's been
so
a
much.
pleasure to tune in with you in this way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Please have a
thanks.
great night.